Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 13th of June. Today we have some interesting updates, but before we start I would like to discuss with you one important topic about the prisoners and prisoners of war. If we're talking about Russian Federation, we know that they used the Russian forces, the regular contract forces, professional forces. And if we're talking about Ukraine side, we know that a lot of countries all over the world try to help the Ukrainians, and we know that there are a lot of foreign mercenaries or foreign volunteers. And there is a very big difference between the regular Ukrainian forces and volunteers or mercenaries. As you know, the first known case when the foreign volunteers were captured by the Russians was in Azovstal. If you remember, there was, as far as I remember, 2 citizens of United Kingdom and 1 citizen of Morocco. These 3 guys were captured in Mariupol and they were towards DPR and they were put in the DPR prison. Those days when I prepared video about those cases, I told you that nobody from Mariupol garrison would be moved towards the Russian Federation. All of them would be moved to DPR and they will be judged there. And I told you that the main reason of that was that the Russians want to force Ukrainian to start negotiations with DPR. With this action, the Russians want the Ukraine to liberate DPR and start some prisoners of war exchange negotiations. But as I know till now, at least in open source, there is no negotiations about this. And a few days ago, those 3 foreign volunteers were given a death sentence. And if nothing changes in a month, those death sentences will be carried out. So I repeat myself that there are 2 citizens of United Kingdom and 1 from Morocco. And this is a very important topic because if we will take a look at these nowadays, you know that there are very heavy clashes in Severodonetsk. And according to information I have, there's just one place where the Ukrainians have their positions, and this is the Azov plant, the industrial territory in Severodonetsk. And one important thing that I know that according to the Russian sources, these forces are totally cut off from Lysychansk agglomeration. They're encircled and blocked, and there is no way for them to escape this area. And this is very important because a few days ago there was an information open source that there are 400 of Ukrainian soldiers and around 200 of foreign volunteers or foreign mercenaries. So if I understand everything correct, that means that these 200 foreign volunteers is potential 200 death sentence in the future. According to the president of DPR, there is no movements, no actions from the United Kingdom about those 2 soldiers, those 2 citizens of the United Kingdom. But as far as I understand, these 600 soldiers in Severodonetsk, they don't have any other option just to surrender or to fight till death. I'm not sure that they're going to choose the second option, of course, and I told you a video ago that there are civilians, hostages among this plant, and that those 600 soldiers are trying to exchange these civilians for safe evacuation for these 600 soldiers. But believe me, I'm sure that the Russians won't allow any exchange. They will try to capture these 200 soldiers. They don't care about 400 Ukrainian soldiers, and I must say that according to the Ukrainian sources, these 400 is very professional special forces. But for the Russians, his main important goal is to capture these 200 foreign volunteers. Because, as I told you, these 200 volunteers is 200 death sentence. And it will be a very big shock for the worldwide. We understand it that if those two United Kingdom citizens didn't do any weather, but if we're talking about 200, I don't know which country citizenship these guys have. Some sources say that this is Polish volunteers. Some sources say that it's Canadian and United Kingdom volunteers. But believe me, it will be a very big shock. And this situation may ruin any political forces in any country. So we'll follow this situation. I will try to collect as much as possible information about this, but I'm sure that in a day or two we're going to see everything, and it will be very interesting. Now let's talk about Kharkiv area. This is our Kharkiv. This Kharkiv is located on the north of Ukraine, northeast of Ukraine. And if you remember, this is the territory where the Ukrainians started their famous offensive operation, and as a result of that offensive operation, the Russians were pushed towards the border. But today, more and more sources confirms that the Russians managed to return a lot of territories, and all these red cloud with the blue border is the territory that the Russians managed to establish control over by this morning. So today there are very heavy clashes near Stary Saltov. The Ukrainians, they don't want to lose this position, and mainly because of that fact that during the previous few weeks they managed to establish control, some bridgehead had on this bulk of this river. If you remember, I told you in my previous videos that Ukrainians managed to establish bridgehead from Khatomlia on this side of the river and move to the south through Martovo, Primorsko, Pechenegi. So all this area, all this territory is all this bridgehead is under the Ukrainians' control. And this is the reason why the Russians started their offensive operation. I told you a few days ago the commander of this front line has been changed, and now the Russians are very effective. Of course, the Ukrainians don't want to lose their bridgehead in Stary Saltov, this bridge, for many reasons. And one of the most important reasons is on this side of the river, on that bulk, there are a lot of Ukrainian forces. And if the Russians are able to establish control over Stary Saltov, we can say that these forces will be encircled and will be captured. Some Russian military analytics, says that the Russians are planning to increase the buffer between the Russians' territory and the territory that is under Russian control and Ukraine. And mainly these specialists are saying about the territory along the border around Kharkiv. And the main purpose of this operation is that because the Ukrainians are sending a lot of commandos and scouts, and these commandos moves on the territory of Russian Federation where they did some sabotage operations. So that's why the territory, like from Kazachia Lopen to the west, are planned to be captured by the Russians, not very far, but few kilometers, like 10 or 20 kilometers, just to create a buffer. And some military sources are saying that the Russians are aiming to start their offensive operations towards Pechenegi. So the territory between Pechenegi reservoir, this one, and this river, this is like Velika Babka, this you see on the map, this river. So the Russians are planning to establish control over this territory, like to push Ukrainians back and to create a very big buffer. And more military experts are saying that maybe the Russians are planning to establish control over Chuguyev as well. So they want to push a little bit Ukrainians back, maybe to prepare another stage of this special military operation, or maybe they just want to force Ukrainians to move their forces from Severodonetsk, from Donbas arc towards Kharkiv. Few words about our Slaviansk bridgehead. This is our Slaviansk bridgehead. Yesterday we discussed situation in Bogorodichne and Sidorovo. This map is not updated yet, but in a day and a few I think that this issue will be fixed. The Russians have very heavy clashes between Dalin and Bogorodichne. As far as I understand, the Ukrainian forces are trying to do some counter-offensive operations toward Bogorodichne, or maybe they're trying to back up some forces from Bogorodichne for retreating or something like this. The Russian forces are moving from Izum bridgehead from Dovginka towards Slaviansk, trying to encircle and attack this town from the flank. Also, a very important update that the Russians started their shelling operations towards Mayaki. We discussed the value of this town yesterday. As I understand, this is some kind of artillery preparation before the storm. I'm not sure that we are going to see the storm operation like tomorrow and the day after. I'm not sure about this because this town is very fortified. The Russians will have to spend some days or maybe weeks until they reduce all defense of this area till ruins, but we can say that today they started to shelling this town and some kind of artillery preparation. By the way, don't forget that today and yesterday there was a holiday in Russia, like the Russia Day, so that's why there is not much activity on the front line. By this evening, there are some more updates about Severodonetsk. According to the sources I have from the Russian sources, they announced that Zaluzhny ordered every single person in Severodonetsk to retreat. He ordered to leave these positions at night, and he ordered to destroy every single heavy tank and heavy equipment in this area. So we can say that Ukrainians, if they are able to retreat those 600 soldiers, they are planning to do this night, and maybe after that there will be no other possibility to do this. If we take a look at our Zolotogorsk area, yesterday we discussed that the Russians might plan to establish control over a small village between Gorskaya, Novoivanovka and Vrubivka, this area, and today the Ukrainian military authorities included this town, this area in their report, saying that the Russians started their offensive operations toward this area between Vrubivka, Novoivanovka and Gorskaya. For now, there are no more updates about this area if they managed to establish control over some towns, but we can say that Nikolaevka, Vrubivka is still under the Ukrainians and the Russians are still fighting for this area. I think that the active phase of any offensive operation in this area we're gonna see just tomorrow, because today is like a holiday in Russia, so maybe this is the reason why the any military activity is so low in Ukraine. So we'll see and we'll follow. More updates are coming from Uglidarskaya area. This is the Uglidarskaya plant, and the Russians, as far as I understand, are trying to encircle this territory. I'm not sure about the quantity of soldiers in this area. Yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, there was a report that the Russians established control over Dolomitne, and this information was confirmed by the Ukrainians, and it was confirmed by the Russians a few days ago. And as you can see, if you take a look at this map, that this area is very fortified. There are a lot of trenches, and there is a Uglidarskaya plant. There are a lot of Ukrainians there, and as you can see, this area is encircled by a bunch of trenches, bunch of fortified positions, so it's not very easy to attack and encircle this area. This is the reason why the Ukrainians are trying to keep this area. But the Russians, yesterday, they established control over Vodorozhenie and over Roty. And if we take a look at this map, you're going to see that the west source map has been updated. So I also added this area, like red area with blue clouds, and this one to show the better picture of this. So we can see that it's very looks like cauldron, but it's not a cauldron. We can say that the road MO3 is already under the fire control, maybe even under physical control, because it's very close to Vodorozhenie and Roty, the towns that is under the Russian control. But there is another road from Uglidarskaya plant. You see this white road that leads towards Toretsk. So this road, it leads here, and not like towards Toretsk, but towards this road, and after that from this road you can go to the north towards Bakhmut, and further to the west towards Toretsk. So I'm not sure about the quantity of soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers in this area. it's not very easy to encircle and to capture this area, because the only one way how the Russians can do this is to establish control over this white line, over this road. And there are two ways how they can do this: or from Dolomitny towards Kadima, or from Vydordzhenie maybe towards Vershina, and further towards Kadima or Semigorye. But if you take a look at this map, you're going to see that this area is totally fortified. You see, this is Semigorye, this is Kadima. There's like an arrow showing where the Russians are heading to. I'm not sure that this operation is very easy, but maybe they can pass, the Russians from Dolomitny can pass between these trenches towards Kadima, and if they are able to establish control or cross this road, the forces in Ugledarska plant will be totally encircled and blocked, and there would be no other way to leave this area. They won't be able to do this even using these fields, because this like empty fields, open space, and the Russians will be able to cover any forces in these fields easily. So we'll see, we'll follow the situation, but I'm sure that around 500 or 1000 soldiers in this area are present. So it might be very interesting, and we are going to follow this, or the Ukrainians maybe in a day or two will make a decision to retreat from this area, as they did in Severodonetsk and on the other front lines. We'll see, but I'm sure that tomorrow will be something in this area. And that's it. Now let's move a little bit towards Donetsk. As you can see, Donetsk is under very heavy fire today. As I told you, yesterday and today there is a Russian day, like holiday, big holiday. Maybe this is the reason why the Ukrainians are shelling this town heavily. Today they bombed local market. As I understand, few people were killed during this day. So, and they're using not just the artillery, but they're also using their Grad system, reactive system. So there are a lot of casualties among civilians. There is no report about casualties among military forces. By this evening, there was a report that Ukrainians managed to attack Donetsk with 80 reactive rockets. A lot of casualties, a lot of fire, a lot of damage, and so on. And as we can see, the Russians still don't have any option, any way how they can reduce all this danger, all this situation. They just can't push Ukrainians from Avdiivka, from Krasnogorovka, from Peski, from Marinka. This area is the most fortified in the Ukrainian situation, in the Ukrainian conflict. So we'll see, we'll follow. I hope that sooner or later all this shelling stops, but for now there is no other way, and as I understand, we're gonna see this shelling every day, and I'm sure that there is a very high risk that Donetsk might be reduced to ruins by all these shellings. Very bad, because of the fact that civilians suffer in this situation, a lot of killed people, but we can't do anything with this, and the Russians also can't do anything with this as well. If we take a look at other front lines, there are no movements. There is no movements between Velika Novosilovka, Kurakhova, Marinka, nothing, no changes here. The same situation between Kamyanska, Orekhov, Gulay-Polye, also very calm front line, maybe like local battles, but there were no even report about them. Kherson area is also in some silent mode, no clashes, no shelling, nothing. And military summer, one more time, want to remind you that we condemn any kind of violence in the world, not just in Ukraine, but everywhere. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, and enjoy your day. Bye bye.